All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on back to the Cinema Lords podcast. And for my Lord of the Rings fans out there, welcome on back to Middle Earth. This past Thursday, we got the first 3 episodes of Season 2 of Rings of Power. So we're going to be talking about that today. Before we get there, you guys will see that I'm in here by myself today, which I'm not happy about. I was really looking forward to discussing these episodes and this show with other people. But because of this release schedule and it being Labor Day weekend, it was really tough to try and find somebody who had the same availability and had seen the episodes and was, able to come in and do them with me. So it never worked out. And obviously I want to get this episode up before tomorrow because tomorrow's episode 4. So obviously I want to get it up before then. So had to come in this morning, do it by myself, and we're going to be banging through these episodes, which there is 3 of them, like I just said. So maybe the fact that I'm in here by myself might allow us to move a little bit quicker and we're not in here for like two hours or so. But before we start diving into the first episode, I want to talk about this release schedule just for a minute because I thought it was fucking ridiculous. First off, I hate this half and half shit. Like, if you want to do a binge or you want to drop the whole thing at once, cool. Drop the whole thing at once for people to binge. If you want to do a week-to-week release, cool. Do a week-to-week release. But this half and half shit, I think, sucks. And I think it makes no sense when you're doing it for a season 2 of a show. Like, people that liked Rings of Power and like Lord of the Rings are going to come back for season 2 and watch this show. So you don't need to rehook the audience. It's not like in season 1 when you have to draw everybody in, and because there's so many storylines and there are so many characters, you need more than 1 hour to do so. But everybody that we dealt with in these first 3 episodes, we already know from season 1. So it's not like you have to redraw us in. I don't understand the need to drop 3 episodes because I don't think anyone's going to go and just start watching this season without watching season 1. I mean, maybe just dummies, but not the average person is going to go do that. And then you mix that in with doing it on Labor Day weekend, which I think is one of the more popular weekends of the year for, parties and such. Like, a lot of people are getting in their last cookouts of the year or their last little getaways for the weekends, before the summer ends. And, you think about all the small stuff too. I mean, like, there are millions and millions and millions of people playing fantasy football. And I would say that Labor Day weekend is probably the most popular time for drafts. It's the week right before the season. You don't have to worry about injuries and all that shit. You got a 3-day weekend, so you got that extra day to do stuff. But regardless, like I said, parties, getaways, that's where I was this weekend. I went with my girl down to the Cape for 2 days. We got back on Sunday. We actually watched the first 2 episodes on Sunday. But then Monday, I have a cookout with 2 fantasy drafts, so I was there all day long. Didn't get to finish episode 3 until yesterday. So there was really no time for me to come in, record with anybody. I just hated this. And it's already a new episode tomorrow, which I guess that part's kind of cool. But as a whole, I thought this release schedule just fucking stunk. As far as these 3 episodes, like I said, I'm going to try to get through them pretty quick because there is 3 of them and I am in here by myself. But I'm definitely going to be taking a lot more time with episodes 1 and 2 than I am with episode 3. As soon as I saw the synopsis for episode 3, and I saw like the names Isildur and Arondir and then like Numenor, I was like, all right, I already can tell I'm not going to be in on this episode because there's so many storylines in this series, and then some of them I just truly do not give a fuck about. Isildur is probably the biggest one on that entire list. Couldn't give 2 shits less about his character. The Arondir storyline with Bronwyn and Theo doesn't do anything for me at all either. I think the only reason why it's even cool to have Arondir on screen ever is because occasionally he does some cool shit with his bow and actually like does some fighting scenes. But altogether, episode 3, I have very, very little to talk about. So let's start off with episode 1, right? I loved the way that we opened up this first episode and as the season as a whole. I thought doing this whole flashback, seeing as how season 1 ends, with the big discovery, like, holy shit, Halbrand is Sauron. And now we're going to start right off with him, but not current day. We're going to do a flashback, everything that led up to here. So we see that he's addressing a huge room of all these fucking orcs. He's basically just kind of telling them he's going to be the new head honcho. He's going to be the boss, giving out the orders, saying that they need him. Not, you know what I mean? It's not that he needs them. It's the other way around. You guys need me. I got to come in here and save the day for all of y'all. And you can tell some of the orcs are like not having this shit. But Adar is in the room as well, and he backs him. He's like, yeah, no, we're all about this. Like, well, this is the guy we're going to follow. We're behind you, Sauron. So you see him get I guess you could call it a crown, but you've seen Sauron wear it before, I would say, especially in the opening to the Fellowship of the Ring, when he's in full battle mode, just fucking tossing guys aside with that, like, fucking hammer-looking thing that he's got. But basically, they bring in that crown, that's going to be a little coronation for Sauron. And Adar is the one that's going to place it upon his head, and he gives him a nice fucking stab to the back, which I guess we knew that there was some animosity and bad blood between the two of them in the first season. But I was interested to see exactly how it was going to come about because of the one line, especially when Halbrand looks to Adar in season 1 and he says, "Do you recognize me?" Because the flashback, we go back and it's like he does look different, but there's something about it that, like, I don't know if it's obviously the same soul, the same person in there. So there was the same vibe, I guess, but there was something about it where I'm like surprised that, like, a fucking pretty powerful, pretty smart orc, it seems like, couldn't see through it. But regardless, he ends up stabbing him in the back, takes the crown, jabs it right into his fucking spine, and then you have just an army of orcs just fucking jump on Sauron and literally just stab him like 2 billion times fucking over, which was pretty cool to see, I'm not going to lie. And then Sauron, we see a cool little thing, like his blood literally, before that, I'm sorry, fucking doing all the massive stabbings. That was cool. But then we see fucking Adar kind of take his place as the new leader. And Sauron does some kind of cool, like, fucking self-explosion, teleportation, some kind of crazy shit. And it sends a huge blast through everything, snow, ice. I thought that looked, like, sick, which is probably one of the biggest pros about this entire show, season 1, season 2. Cinematography is off the charts, in my opinion. I think there's so many fucking scenes where I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, that looked fucking beautiful. Or that looked so fucking cool. This was one of them. I thought the explosion with the snow and the ice to the outside, thought it looked wicked sick. But I thought that was a very cool place to start. Then, like I said, we see his blood. It's going to start basically just dribbling down through all of it, through soil, rock, all the way basically into, like, the fucking depths of the earth and the absolute shadows. And Sauron's basically taken on this, like, form of mud, which to me, like, especially after we see it, like, eating off of, like, rats and insects, just kind of living off anything it can find, but it's got those tentacles and shit, reminded me of something out of Stranger Things, like, wicked bad. Or even for the Harry Potter fans out there, like the what's it called, the fucking vines and shit that they got caught in the end of the first one, Devil Snare, that shit, it looked like that, just fucking coming at him. It's pretty creepy looking. I liked it a lot. But you see him kind of just eating anything that he can find down here in the fucking depths of the earth, trying to stay alive until he finally grows enough strength and he's able to fucking use his fucking mud form, climbs out of the earth. And then there's a cool little trick where he, like, lays down on the ground, basically like mud, since that's what he fucking looks like. And this horse carriage comes trotting on through, just basically attaches himself right onto the wheels and does his little eating thing, eats the lady. I think he eats the horse too, but then we see him take the form of Halbrand. So we see exactly how he came to be, like, the actual character of Halbrand. And then from there, we're also going to see eventually that he is going to come across these like a little crew, a little village on the move. And one old man stops him. He's like, "Yo, don't go that way. Death is that way. You're more than welcome to come with us." That's exactly what he does. And we see them on a boat at sea. And this part was cool. Again, big storm, looked cool. We already seen it a little bit in the first season. Boat goes down. We have Sauron underwater, or Halbrand underwater. I'm going to probably be using those all interchangeably, but I'm sure you guys know what I mean if you're watching the show. Big ass, like, what, sea snake, fucking dragon, fucking Star Wars looking creature. Reminded me of the Phantom Menace there, that scene. Big ass motherfucker comes flying at Sauron. And this part was a little strange to me because it appears that Sauron basically, like, made this thing move out of the way. And then if you even have the subtitles on, it says, like, screeching, which is, to me, a screech is something to do with pain. So what I'm assuming is that Sauron kind of, like, used some Jedi-ass mind trick, fucking threw this thing out of his way and was, like, fucking force choking it. The thing I found weird, though, was that, like, there was no movement to that at all. There was no, like, him burbling water, saying words in the water or anything like that. Like, he literally was just, like, looking at it, And then it came by, flew by, and then was like just screeching in pain. Have to imagine that was him, but just kind of thought it was weird that they didn't have him do, I don't know. I guess that would be too Star Wars if he's doing some kind of fucking Jedi hand trick. But either way, we see how they ended up on the little floating raft or part of the ship that we see him find Galadriel on, and that's exactly what happened. Galadriel hops on, and we see exactly how everything for Halbrand and Galadriel and how they all came together was from his perspective, because we obviously saw it from Galadriel's perspective in the first season. So I thought that was a very cool way to get back into the show, to get back into the start the season off. Picked up right where we left off, basically, with that revelation, just taking it another step forward. Very cool. Galadriel and Elrond race to the High King. This scene was cool. For a second, I had no idea what was going on. I thought they were playing some kind of fucking cool game. I thought it was like fucking, I'm going to keep this shit from you, and you got to race enough close to me, and you can fucking pick it right out of my pocket. I was like, oh man, this looks sick. Then I remember the fucking rings thing. Well, not so much the rings thing, but the fact that Elrond found out that Halbrand was Sauron too at the end of the second season. So we have a little race to the High King. And obviously Galadriel and Elrond see this completely differently. And Gil-galad, the High King, he doesn't even hesitate, which to me seemed like almost questionable. Like I got a little bit of an evil vibe from that. Right away he was just like, which obviously these rings do kind of, you know, we see them all the time. They like whisper out, they call to people, take over their minds, possess them, all that kind of shit. So I was like, wow, is Gil-galad like already getting attached to this thing like right away, like from, you know, a few feet away? But right away, sides with Galadriel, which again, like I said, I thought that was a little strange. And he's like, the only way that we have any chance to save not just the elves, but all of Middle-earth from Sauron is to use these rings. So he asked Elrond for them. And Elrond's just like, nah, fuck that, bro. I know you're the High King, and I should be listening to you, but I can't do it. Which is kind of the same vibe that we always got from him in the trilogy. Because he was always like the high and mighty do-gooder. Like he was always kind of had his nose up at everybody. Like he always knew more than everybody else. So it kind of got that same vibe from him here. So like I said, I wasn't totally surprised by that. But says, fuck it, jumps off the fucking top of the goddamn waterfall with the rings. And of course, you know, he ain't dead. But we see Halbrand, he gets the Mordor. Menon, you know, there's, I guess we obviously see some shit in Lord of the Rings, but it feels like this show's a little bit more violent. Like, when they were doing this, they had the men and women from the village that they just took down. Like, all the survivors, they're having them, you know, bend the knee to Adar, and anyone who doesn't, they're, like, just fucking executing them. I was like, you know, it's not like there's a ton of blood or anything, but I was like, there is a little bit more, like, it feels like a little bit harder violence in this show a little bit, when it occasionally gets actionally. Maybe I'm wrong, but just a vibe that I get sometimes. Anybody who says yes gets a nice little Adar brand on them. Bad guys in this show, man, they love branding. They love claiming their mark. Halbrand gives him a deal. He says, yo, Sauron, I got some information. I'll tell you what's up. He's forming a weapon, and all I need you to do is just, you know, let my people go. And Adar's like, fuck that. Nope, takes him prisoner. And we see fucking Halbrand in a jail cell again. Fucking first in Numenor and now here in Mordor. It was not surprising, but I was like, all right, if he's... The only thing he's asking for is for his people to be let go. Like, obviously, he's going to be trying to hold sway over them still. It's just like, when are they going to come back into play? Like, how is he going to use them? When is he going to use them? That's something to be looking out for, I would have to imagine. He goes down to a holding cell, like I said. We see that he's being held prisoner with I think it's a warg, like the dog beast that they ride. If it's not, it's something very, very similar. It's like a basically massive, oversized dog wolf. Again, looked pretty cool. People, I thought some people complained about the CGI in the first season, and I didn't really necessarily get that, and I still don't in this second season either. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I just don't see it because I thought this thing looked sick. I never really think that this show looks like wonky at all, but he basically befriends this fucking warg, kind of wins him over. It seems like he's doing a little bit of his Jedi mind shit on this warg, ends up giving him this nice fat bone, and he's got himself a nice little doggy. We also saw that he was getting beat up in that same prison by the old man who fucking basically set all this shit in motion in season 1 when he put that sword into the thing and fucking twisted it. The volcano bursted and Mordor was given birth. He's an old fuck. That guy's a real piece of shit. And Halbrand even tells him, like, hey, I'm going to fucking get you for this shit. And sure enough, he's gonna. Because Adar's going to come back. and he's gonna say, "Hey, bro, I let you people go, and I need to know everything you know about Sauron." And Halbrand's like, "I only know a little bit, but I have favor with the elves. I can ride there. They know all about Sauron. We're cool. We're tight. I can get some information, and I'll come back." So Adar's like, "All right, fine, but you got to fucking bend the knee." And when he says bend the knee, he means like at his feet, like his head at his feet, like literally like face laying down on the ground. Just a wild, wild, wild fucking move. I think I saw something like that once. And when I say I think, I mean I did. It was a wild, wild time. But regardless, that's a story for another day. He bends the knee, face down to the floor, says, "Yep, I'm your guy. I serve the king of Mordor, the lord of Mordor, however you have it." And then you see this little smirk come over his face because he knows all he needed to do was get out of here, and now he's good. He's like, "Now I'm going to ride off. I'm going to go see Celebrimbor. I'm going to put this whole plan into place. We're going to stop putting rings out like fucking pizzas. It's going to be great." So he's all happy. He's doing exactly what he wants to do. And then before we leave him, we see exactly what I said. The fucking warg thing fucks up that old man. Old man done. And old man, I said it a couple times during the season 1 recaps that we did. I thought there was definitely going to be a chance that old man was going to be like one of the first ring wraiths, because obviously has to be a man, which he is, and he's like, this pretty devout follower. So I totally thought that there was a chance that he was going to be one of the first ring wraiths, or like the ring wraith who's in charge. I also think that's a real possibility for Theo. I think Theo's already I think evil's already kind of attached itself to him, and I think that he's going to. I think there's a real chance that maybe he ends up a ring wraith. Someone that we know already, I think, is going to be a wraith, and there's only so many characters. Theo makes sense, especially after he held the sword already last season. He lost his mom, so he's all butthurt. Yeah, that would make sense for me. We go to my favorite characters, baby. We go to my team, the dream team. Gandalf, Nori, the stranger. We're traveling through the desert. Seem to be fucking lost. They're going in circles. They got no food. And they're being watched by some cool masked men. Game of Thronesy, like Sons of the Harpy, but cooler. Definitely intrigued by them. Also reminded me of like the men from like was it Return of the King? Return of the King. They have some funky masks on. These were more elegant, but still same vibe, I guess. Nori's like, "Yo, bro, like we haven't eaten. We're wandering around. We're lost. Can you fucking use some of your magic to sprout some fucking food?" Gandalf's hesitant, but he gives it a go. Ends up basically exploding a tree, so he thinks he fucking failed. But then you see like a trillion goddamn beetles come pouring out of it, which I guess is food for Nori and Gandalf. But fuck me, I was like, this is not the solution. Nori's all pumped up, but regardless, we're gonna camp out for the night. And while we're chilling by the campfire, we notice that there's another campfire off in the distance. All right, so someone's following us, right? So. Also, I do this with other show recaps. I kind of, rather than just going every single scene and jumping around like crazy, I try to combine storylines into like one conversation, as best I can at least, just to make things easier. But Nori and Gandalf, they're going to set up a nice little trap, catch this person that's following them. And who else is it but another Harfoot? Poppy came tracking them down after they left. Now we got a trifecta. We got the trio. Instead of Gollum, we got Gandalf. We got 2 hobbits. We got 2 Harfoots. But this is my team. I'm all in on the Harfoots. I love Gandalf, obviously. These are the guys that I'm most excited to watch, which I think is not a popular opinion. I know that the Harfoot storyline was not well loved in the first season. I loved it. I love the Harfoots and the Hobbits. They're just simple people, and I appreciate that. Like, they don't have any care at all for all of the ons and goings of the world, these rings, these wars, good, bad, evil, none of it. They just want to eat their food, have a good time, chill out with their family, like... I love it. They're just simple people migrating away for the winter and shit. I love it. I absolutely love them. All in on. Poppy brings a map from Sadoc, R.I.P. in peace. Got some help though. Like I said, we're wandering around in circles. She's able to use a map that apparently was an old Harfoot migration, an old walking song. So they're actually able to sing another one of those walking tunes, and it leads them right out of the fucking desert. They finally arrive at Rune. Gandalf's looking over at all of these, like off a mountain cliff, sees all these stars. And this was a cool little thing I thought that he did, because it's always been Nori and the stranger, Nori and the stranger, Nori and the stranger. And now Poppy came and tagged along. So I think that there might be a couple of scenes where we start to see them kind of start to form a relationship. And Nori goes running off. She's like, "Yep, adventure time." And Gandalf just stands there, gazing off. And Poppy's the one who's like, hey, like, why are you looking at this like you've been here before? And we hear Gandalf say only in his dreams, which we've obviously seen that he's been having some serious visions and stuff. Probably his brain like coming together with all of the fucking knowledge and shit that he knows, like his old home, his old name, why he's here, all of that good shit. Obviously, he's learning English. He's speaking real well. They are trying to figure out a name for him. That was pretty funny. Terrible name choices. But I'm interested in that too. I'm interested to see how we're going to come up with the name of Gandalf, because they're like, when it comes, it comes. It'll happen naturally. So I'm intrigued to see how the fuck that happens, because I don't know how you stumble upon Gandalf. We go to Elrond again. He's going to survive his little waterfall jump, and he's going to meet with a new guy that we're going to meet. Wise, super old elf, Master Círdan. Cool hair. Kind of reminds me of Jesus. Kind of liked him. Elf Jesus. Elrond says basically that he wants to get rid of these rings, that he thinks that they were touched by Sauron. Even though based on everything he says, it doesn't seem like necessarily there was a direct connection. But this Master Círdan guy, he's basically like, yo, like if you destroy these rings, he's like, you're destroying like the race of elves, like we're gonna have to leave, and you're basically dooming Middle Earth. And Elrond's like, if that's what happens as opposed to using these rings, then so be it. Which is fucking insanity. Like, you just explained the worst case scenario. Elves all have to leave Middle Earth, and the rest of Middle Earth is gonna burn. I don't know what's worse than that. But that's basically what he's saying, is if we use these rings, it will be worse than that. What is worse? Please explain to me what worse is. Are you guys going to all just be like mindless souls, like the Army of the Dead from Return of the King? You guys are just going to be trapped here to wander around as spirits? That does sound awful. I don't know what the likelihood of that is, but I just don't get what could be so much worse. Regardless, when he says that, Master Círdan's like, dude, like, you're your father's son. Not sure what that means. Is his father also just a kooky bastard? Who can say? But he says basically that there's this place in the sea where I think it basically says like there was an old powerful weapon that used to be there, and even though it's not, and it was lost to the sea, there's still like traces. I think that's what he said, something along those lines. And basically, if we drop the rings into the depths of that part of the sea, the old power of the weapon that's still there will basically destroy it. So that was interesting. I guess that was just interesting in the sense of, like I said, like, I don't get what could be so much worse than everybody basically dying. A lot of elves would probably die too, I would have to imagine. But regardless, Galadriel and Gil-galad finally arrive. They show up, and Galadriel's like, yo, like, let me go talk to him. And when she gets in there, Elrond is just like, hey, I don't got the rings no more. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm not helping still. I don't believe in using these rings. I think Sauron was playing you all along. Everything that's happened to this point could have been Sauron, and everything that's going to happen after this could be because of Sauron. So we see fucking Master Círdan. He's out on a little row canoe, basically. Fucking not the most comforting of ships to be on, especially when it looks so stormy outside. Like, it might not be raining and shit right now, but it seems like it could fucking bust open at any moment, and that is not the little dinghy that I would want to be stuck on. Again, I digress. He is going to do something that we've seen in the Lord of the Rings a lot. He's going to take these rings and this little purse that he has. He's not even holding them in his hand. He's not even looking at them, which is probably a really smart move, because we know how they can just basically possess anybody just by looking at them. And he goes to toss them into the depths of the sea to destroy them. And, of course, a fucking explosion boosts up from under the boat. The boat starts rocking, and he is unable to drop them in. He's still holding them in his hand. And then before he goes to cast them in, he pours them out of his hand, out of his little pouch thing into his hand. And you know right then and there, like, all right, it's over. Like, boom, set, match. These rings are not going into the fucking sea, which obviously we did know that already. But, you know, just for right now, who knows? Maybe they went and got him afterwards. But fuck, you get what I'm saying. So we're gonna see those again real soon. He couldn't destroy him, but like I said, that's something that we've seen in Lord of the Rings a lot before. Isildur couldn't cast the ring. Frodo couldn't cast the ring. These things, they have a mind of their own, and when their back's against the wall, it's like a wounded animal. They just lash out, and they'll do anything that they can. We are gonna go. Actually, we know what? We're basically gonna kind of stay with that same storyline. We're gonna stay with the rings. We see Gil-galad is informing the elves that they got to leave Middle Earth. He's gonna sing a little song that was really awful. I really hated it. It was really bad, and he's not a great singer either. But Master Saradin's going to arrive. He's got the three rings. He's already got one on his hand, of course. Good for him. And then he's going to give the other two to Gil-galad, who Elrond is going to, basically say, no, kind of like that vibe. And the High King, he's going to fucking drop the rings. One of them goes spilling right over to Galadriel's feet. She's obviously going to pick it up and toss that thing on. And then we see that Gil-galad's tossed on the third. So now we have three rings, all wielding their three. And right there, instantaneously, the tree starts to heal itself. All of the leaves start to grow back. And it's fucking another cinematography moment. They show like a aerial view of the tree like sprouting gold, and it's so fucking bright. Even though it's, sunny outside, it's a nice fucking day and shit. It just glows so freaking bright. Thought it looked very, very, very cool. But Elrond's just like disgusted and just walks the fuck off. And then we go to the last scene of this episode, which I thought was a good place to end it too. We know Halbrand was able to escape jail from Adar. He gave him the green light to bounce. He arrives at Lindon, and he basically asked to meet with Celebrimbor. And that's how it's going to end. Again, I thought this was a good ending for this first episode. I feel like a good amount happened, which I saw a couple of reviews say that it was like the first few episodes were boring. I didn't find this episode really to be that boring at all. I thought there was a good amount of stuff that happened. I think if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, that you're going to be very happy. I think the only people that are saying it's boring and shit aren't like Lord of the Rings fans. I saw somebody online say like, you guys were looking for Lord of the Rings meets John Wick. And I was like, that actually sounds like exactly what they're looking for. And if that is, you're in the wrong universe. Like, that's not what we are. When we have a battle, it's a fucking battle, but they're few and far in between, and we got to set all the pieces in motion to get there. Good storytelling. But I thought this first episode was really good. I got enough of my Harfoots and the Stranger. I think that was mostly a bit for season one. Good cinematography overall. Really liked this episode. Loved the flashback opening. Thought this was a great way to get back to Middle Earth, to get back to this show. And for me, this was all of my favorite storylines, aside from Durin and Khazad-dûm, which we're going to spend a lot of time with on episode 2. So let's get to that. We are going to open up with the map of Middle Earth, which obviously is a little tool that they like to use a lot. Excuse me. There's a little tool that they like to use a lot. And we see the volcano, Mount Doom. We see the explosion, and we see how it kind of creeps all across Middle Earth, all the way into Khazad-dûm. We see Durin and Disa. They're kind of just in the markets. And they're having a funny little conversation basically about like fucking food. And Durin's like, yo, like, let's get the good stuff. You know what I mean? Like, let's get the nice piece of meat. Let's get the good $7 bottle of marinade instead of the cheesy $3 one. Let's get the good. And Disa's like, yo, we're supposed to be saving our money. I think it literally looked like a bone, but like, maybe they use it for flavoring some kind of shit. I don't know how dwarves cook. But he has like it looked like he got like a big ass bone. And then she like took it and threw it away and then just pulled out like this little tiny thing. I think it was a bone. That's what it looked like to me. Could totally be wrong. But regardless, I thought that this show was pretty funny. I like their bounce back. I think that they have a very like fun relationship, which isn't a very like common thing. There's not many relationships in Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. This is one of the few. And I like it a lot. I like their banter. It's just a good back and forth. You can tell that there's never really like a dull day with these two. And obviously, we saw in season 1 too. Their kids seem like they were good, like a couple of wild ones too. But Disa is gonna sense. I don't know if she hears it, senses it, feels it, but she knows that something is about to happen with the mountain. And sure enough, she tells everyone to brace themselves. And the mountain, or Khazad-dûm itself, starts to crumble in on itself. And we see a bunch of huge rock pieces fall down and block the holes of sunlight that come through and basically allow the crops to grow inside of Khazad-dûm. And these rocks fall just so perfectly and block out all of the light. So now they're going to be in a real fucking pickle because they have no way to grow more food. And obviously there's a shit ton of fucking dwarves living down here. So this is going to be a real issue. And again, we know from Fellowship of the Ring that Khazad-dûm is going to completely wither and die. And it seems like this is probably why, and this is going to be the start of that. Galadriel meets with some of the higher ranking elves along with Gil-galad and a couple of others. And while they're kind of meeting, she's having a vision about Celebrimbor, and he's saying that Halbrand's arrived, and basically darkness crashes around her, and we see these vines sprout out, and they go and they grab for both her and Celebrimbor. These are more like regular vines that you would see like on an actual tree, but still same kind of thing, sort of as the Sauron muck in episode 1. That feeling of like just extension of oneself. Again, like I said, it reminded me of like the devil's snare, or things just fucking reaching out and grabbing at you. It's just freaky. But thought this was the cool little scene. We see that she's really the ring's really starting to not fuck with her, but connect with her. Maybe is that a better way to do it? Giving her some visions and shit. But she tells Gil-galad when she comes out of it that Sauron's going to be creating more rings. That's what he's going to be trying to do, because he wants to not just like control all of Mordor. He wants to control and possess everybody in all of Middle-earth, bind them to him and what he wants. So Galadriel wants to pursue him, and Gil-galad says like, no, you can't do it, especially by yourself, because they say once he's deceived you and he's been into got you to let your guard down once before, he can do it again with ease. And obviously she was fooled by him in the entire first season. But she's like, hey, all right, like maybe I won't have to go alone. Who's she going to bring? Let me tell you, it's going to end up being Elrond, but I was surprised by that. I was like, I think Elrond made himself pretty fucking clear that he's not with you. Like, he's not with you to help. As long as you have that ring on, you guys aren't friends. So another thing that didn't make a total lot of sense to me. Celebrimbor, we see, refuses to meet with Halbrand. Halbrand is just like, I'm going to park my ass here. He's like, I know that you're going to fucking change your mind sooner or later. Who knows? Which we end up seeing. I think he kind of is going to use some of his powers to almost wiggle his way back in. We see a messenger is being sent to Celebrimbor. Oh, actually, no, we already saw it be sent. I'm sorry. And the guy that was carrying it, he's dead. So now we know that Halbrand is literally just parked outside, waiting for Celebrimbor to let him in and change his mind. And we also know that the note that's going to Celebrimbor that's going to say that Halbrand is Sauron, and of course, obviously to not treat with him at all, but to hide from him basically, is never going to get to him. So he's only going to be able to go off of the word of the last time he spoke with Galadriel, which was just not to treat with him. He didn't know to the extent and the magnitude of how bad it could be and exactly who he was. But Sauron is going to use this. Like I said, he's going to use this to wiggle his way in. We are going to go to a new location that we haven't seen before. We saw Rune a little bit in the first episode when they arrived, but this says Western Rune, Caras Gaer. We're going to see a new dark wizard, our kind of a little bit of Saruman vibes, dressed all in white. Again, I think Saruman was too. Played by the actor who plays Mance Rayder, the King Beyond the Wall in Game of Thrones. Noticed that right away. We see that his followers are all in white with their armor, so I was like, okay, these are the same guys that we saw in Season 1 that were following, tracking Gandalf and the Harfoots. And they're going to do a cool little, nifty little trick. Again, with the CGI and shit, and I think things look cool. A bunch of, like, the followers, they get the little butterfly things, and they're all letting the butterflies out, and they're flying around and shit, and then they form a nice little fucking person, and it's, I'm not fairly certain, it's, like, the leader from the trio in Season 1 that went hunting, like the strongest one. He had like the staff and shit. And the Dark Wizard, I don't know what his fucking name is. I'm just gonna call him Mance Rayder, because why not? Mance Rayder's like fucking disappointed. He's like, bro, Gandalf just got here. He doesn't know how to speak. He barely knows the extent of his own powers. He doesn't know how to control them. And you guys couldn't take him down, the three of you. Like, you guys are supposed to be three of my top dogs. And you couldn't take down this one guy who, in a way, is almost like an infant. And we see the masked men that were tracking them as well. They showed up, which was a surprise to me. I wasn't going to be expecting them to be dealing with the dark wizards and shit like that. But they say, hey, we'll go get Gandalf for you. Mance Rayder's like, how are you going to do it if my people couldn't do it? And he's like, we're gonna do an old school technique. We're not going to bring him down directly. We're going to go take his friends, hold him at gunpoint, and he's going to have to do basically whatever we want him to do. And you see Mance Rayder kind of smirk over. He likes this plan. We see, let's see. Sorry again, guys. Just fucking trying to power through this. And obviously, get a little thirsty talking about myself. We see Stranger, Gandalf, Nori Poppy. They come to a little shortcut. Again, I feel like the first couple of episodes, there's been a lot of little, not even Easter eggs, but just things, situations, words that are similar to things that we've seen in the Fellowship of the Ring or the trilogy as a whole. But they're going to come across a shortcut. Kind of like the same thing where they take it through the mountains, like I said, in the Fellowship, in the snow. But they see a shortcut. It's through a desert, and it looks like a desert. There's no food, there's no trees, there's no water. So it's going to be a damn near impossible road to take. So they're like, all right, we're going to take the long road around. And sure enough, these masked men are right on their heels. They're searching for them. They have to hide. And as soon as this happens, Gandalf's like, all right, again, like the same thing. We have no choice. We have to take the road that we don't want to take. So we're gonna have to go through the fucking desert, which is obviously gonna be a bitch. Cool scene that I like. I always like shit in Khazad-dûm. We see Disa and the other dwarf singers, and they're gonna start doing their little chants to the mountain to try and try to get signs from the mountain to find new openings for them to drill through, so that we can get the sun through. And they do that cool little singing thing, which I fucking thought was awesome. The mountain just basically says, fuck off. There's no openings for you guys to drill into. So, like I said, this sunlight issue is going to be a real problem. We're not going to be able to grow any foods. It's going to be a real fucking issue. The king and Disa are going to have a little argument, basically saying like, hey, is Durin ever going to come and talk to me? Disa's like, one of you guys has to be the bigger man, and it just seems like no one's going to. They're both just so fucking stubborn. They're truly father and son, and they're both cut from the exact same fucking cloth. We see something that I did just not like at all, and I thought was wicked stupid. Durin and a couple of the other dwarves, they're just like hammering at some walls, trying to get lucky, trying to find a little gape to start, hammering through to find new openings and shit like that. And a couple of the dwarves start just like fucking bullying Durin. I didn't get that at all. Like, first off, I thought Durin was a big badass, and I thought everybody loved him and shit. That's at least what we've seen in season 1. I thought he was a fucking popular guy. And these fucking assholes down here are just fucking bullying him around. And he's like, yo, if you don't cut the shit, I'm going to fucking bite your finger off. And then the dude pushes him, and then that's all we see. Did he actually bite his finger off? Did he fuck that dude up? Did he just fucking take it and fucking go home to lick his wounds? I don't know. That's not the Durin I know. And if something cool happened and they didn't show it, that's fucking even worse. That's so lame. But we see Durin back at home with Disa, and they're just going to continue to have the same argument that she just had with the king, like this ongoing beef. One of them's going to have to step up and be the bigger man, and it just seems like neither's going to do it. So it just seems like we're at a stalemate. We're at a cross, and it's a bad time because obviously things are getting bad at Khazad-dûm. Galadriel's going to ask Elrond, kind of like I mentioned earlier, to join this little raiding party to Lindon to go and talk to Celebrimbor and, kind of try to track down Sauron. Try to track down Sauron. Jesus Christ. She's got a couple of other elves. I think they say like they got 6 elves or some shit. They might say that later. But she's going to have a little raiding party. She's going to be leading it, and she wants Elrond to go. And Elrond's just like, dude, I don't, like, which is what I just said a minute ago. He's like, I don't get what you don't understand. Like, I'm not with you right now. As long as you're using those rings, like, we're not on the same team. I don't want to help you. We're basically not even friends. And he's like, if you ever had any respect for our friendship, then you would just fucking leave. Like, right now, just get out of here. So Elrond's going to go, and he's going to talk to Cert and try to get some more advice. Which is a little strange just because he already went and tried to get advice from him in the first episode, trusted him to destroy the rings for him, and then he turned around, is wearing a ring himself, which he's pissed at Galadriel for, and then gave one to Galadriel and the High King. So why is Elrond not pissed off at this guy even more than Galadriel? Is it because they're closer, they're like good friends? But obviously he had a relationship with this guy beforehand. That's why he felt comfortable enough to go to him. That's why they were able to have like a very easy conversation. So some of the things in these first 2 episodes, while I liked them, I didn't feel like totally added up. There was some little things, wrinkles in the story that I kind of confused me a little bit. Regardless, though, Serdan's basically going to be like, bro, like, things are bad. The elves are going to have, so a lot of elves are going to die. A lot of elves are going to have to leave. Middle Earth is going to be fucked. These rings are our only salvation, and they're in the hands of us. We control them. They're our weapon to use. I get that they're scary because they have so much power. And it's smart to do that, but don't let that fear stop you from using them to do good and saving however many countless lives and Middle Earth as a whole. So it seems like that's going to probably get Elrond thinking a little bit. But again, that's like, you haven't had that thought already. Like, you're a fucking smart dude. You would think that this would already have crossed your mind. At least I would think so. Like, dude, like, you're going to get one of these rings. You'll be in control of it. Unless he truly thinks that Sauron's just going to instantaneously just, like, take over you the second you put them on. Which I guess is possible. I mean, he's a fucking dangerous motherfucker. Let's see. Okay. Nori, Poppy, and the Stranger again. We're traveling through the desert. This was kind of funny. We're traveling through the desert. Got a nice little montage. Everyone's getting tired. Stranger's going to toss the two Harfoots onto a nice little fucking blanket, basically, to drag them through so that they don't have to walk anymore. And eventually, he's going to fucking get too tired. He's going to pass out. And we're in the middle of the desert. Nowhere to go. No food. No water. Our only guy of worth is fucking knocked out. And he probably could die of dehydration. And Poppy just goes running over this hill. And by the chance of God, there just happens to be a fucking well in the middle of nowhere, which has to be some kind of a magical well, because even if it is a well in the middle of nowhere, wouldn't that water dry up? I'm not a well smith. I don't know my well technology very well. But in my mind, that water would all eventually evaporate, especially being in, the dead heat. If not, that water's got to be like boiling, right? Like, it's got to be like fucking 2 billion degrees, and then it's like thrown into their mouths like, yay, this is great. Those men, though, they went and met with that wizard guy, so maybe they're fucking using some magic on this fucking well. By the way, I just fucking adjusted my hat. Look how sick this hat is. I got this hat while I was down the Cape this weekend. It's fucking dope fucking hat. Dope fucking hat. I digress again. So sure enough, they fucking start cranking up this well bucket, and with every crank that they pull it up, bang, 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 they're hitting this bell, basically just a huge alarm. And sure enough, they're able to get some water to Gandalf. He wakes up, and basically as soon as they do, these masked men arrive. And now Gandalf has no choice but to use his magic, even though he's been scared to, and he's gonna whip up a fucking tornado straight out of goddamn Twister. This thing was fucking mean, and he's just making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It sucks up all the men. It starts throwing them all over the place. And then it starts to get out of his control. It's getting too big, and he can't control the size of it. And it starts to extend towards the Harfoots, Nori and Poppy. And they're holding on for dear life. Gandalf sees them. He knows he can't control this thing. He can't just turn it off. So he goes and he tries to grab hold of them to keep them from flying off. And, of course, right as he's about to get there, Nori and Poppy just go fucking flying into the goddamn abyss. Hopefully safely. I don't know how. Hopefully they land in like a body of water. I don't know how they would find a body of water, seeing as how we're in the middle of a desert. But I'm going to assume that nothing bad is going to happen to them. And I hope nothing bad happens to them, because they're my homies. This is my squad. This is my team. So I can't have anything happen to them. Hopefully we'll come back to them tomorrow. Which, that's the only cool thing. Not cool, but it is nice that I was able to finish off the episodes like last night. I'm reviewing them today, and then tomorrow we're already going to get a new episode. So that part's kind of cool. I'm not mad about that. I'm looking forward to already having a new episode to watch tomorrow. So we go to Halbrand. He is still waiting for Celebrimbor. Who knows how fucking long it has been, but he is just waiting, looking up at the tower, waiting for Celebrimbor to come. And a storm starts to form in the sky, thunder, lightning, pouring rain. Again, cool cinematography, looking up at the tower and shit, storm in the background. Very cool. And I guess you want to call it, like, Celebrimbor's little assistant is like, hey, he's still outside. It's pouring rain. Like, it's cold. Shouldn't we, like, do something? So Celebrimbor finally goes down from his tower, and he's like, yo, dude, like, if you don't leave, I am going to force you out. And Sauron the Deceiver comes out. This is something that we know he's good at. He's able to, worm his way, weasel his way inside, get into people's heads, make them do the things that he wants them to do, think the things that he wants them to think. He obviously did it with Galadriel in all of season 1, and now he's going to really do it to Celebrimbor. And as soon as he's told to leave, he's plays him like a fiddle. You didn't know that you didn't talk to Galadriel? She didn't tell you the good news? Your rings worked. And of course, being the fucking egotistical maniac that he is, and he's been wanting this entire life, he's like, wait, what? My rings worked? Oh shit. All right. I didn't get any word from Gil-galad. And Celebrimbor's the one that asked him that, to kind of plant a little seed in his head, they're trying to take credit for your creation. He's like, all right, fine, come on up. You can come on in. I want to know more. So, again, like I said, he's going to play him just like a fucking fiddle. He's going to say everything that he needs to blow up Celebrimbor's ego and make him feel like he's the smartest, the most clever, the greatest, which he might be. But regardless, Sauron tells him, all the good deeds that the rings have already done. They fixed the tree. The elves are going to be saved. Celebrimbor is a hero. And this part was funny. Celebrimbor is like, yo, we're popping open the good shit. I'm getting the first age fucking bottle. I'm popping over the top-notch shit. I'm getting after it tonight. Good for him. He deserves it. But he's going to, just like I said, play him for a fiddle. And he's like, all right, dude, we need more rings. We need them for men this time. And Celebrimbor's like, huh? Men? He's like, they're easily fucking swayed. You know what I mean? Their minds are fickle. But he's basically going to say that these rings, regardless of whose hands they're in, which we already have some for the elves, and to make more, we need the mithril from the dwarfs. So I'm already assuming he's going to be accounting for the dwarfs, and then to give them to men. He's trying to spread these things out, to spread the lightness, basically, to fight the approaching darkness that is himself. And Celebrimbor's at first hesitant to believe. And Sauron, or Halbrand, he's going to basically say I'm not everything that I'm perceived to be. I'm not just a man. I am more than a man. I've been sent here basically as a weapon to help to save the day. And Celebrimbor's like, that seems kind of insane. I don't know why I would trust that. And then Sauron's going to do more of his nifty shit. He does some more Jedi mind trick. The storm blasts open a couple of doors. The storm comes raging into the room. Celebrimbor's got to go close it. And in the split second that he goes and turns his back to close the door, Sauron, boom, disappears. And he darkens up the whole room. Celebrimbor is obviously a little spooked, a little freaked out. He's looking for him, calling his name and shit. And then boom, fucking furnace, the forge, whatever, bursts with flame, lights up the entire room. And you can hear Sauron's voice like a fucking whisper on the wind, just spraying little seeds, little nuggets into Celebrimbor's mind. And he's saying hey, you've already achieved something amazing, and you're not getting the credit that you should get for it. And he's like, not only can I help you get that credit, but he's like, we can do so much more. I can help you achieve a level of greatness that you didn't even know you could achieve. I can make you the best version that you can possibly be. I can give you everything you need to make the tools, and you will become the Lord of the Rings. Fucking cool. Definitely liked that. I think that was an Easter egg that worked. I think that one was not over the top. Thought it played pretty cool. And then we see Halbrand come out of the forge, out of the fire, out of the flames himself, like a rebirth. Only this time he's not a man, he's an elf. Elf ears, and he's got another new name, which we've heard this before. He likes to take on new names for all of his almost different characters so that he can play many roles and many faces at one time. But he's now Annatar, which I'm going to tell you right now, that's a name that we're probably not going to mention too much. We're probably just going to stick with Halbrand and Sauron, because those are fucking easy. And Annatar is a fucking nightmare. But that was a very, 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 very cool scene. I liked all of that a lot. I liked seeing the Sauron, the Deceiver, how he obviously already mentioned it. Fellowship opens up, him fucking huge, battle smashing. And I think for the most part, when you say Sauron, that is what you think of. The towering fucking power wielding, ring wearing, smashing guys up. And we forget that he's also like a massive manipulator. He's able to get inside anybody's mind and get them to do exactly what he wants them to do. So it was cool to see more of that side of him. Even though we did in a way see him do it all in season 1, but we didn't know that like at the time. In hindsight, now watching it, I'm sure it would look very cool. Which actually I can tell you it did, because I actually did a rewatch a couple weeks ago and it was awesome before the season came out. Rewatch was very, very good. So now the work on the rings is going to begin. Now the team is assembled. He is got Celebrimbor wrapped around his finger. He is all set. Like, he's got everything that he wants. He's also got a new makeover. So the people that know him as Halbrand that are afraid of him might not recognize him. Even though, again, like, he doesn't look totally different, which I kind of thought the same thing with the first version of him in the flashback in episode 1. I was like, he looks different, but he doesn't look like that much different. Like, there's still definitely a resemblance. Galadriel is going to head to Lindon with her 6 elves. Elrond is the commander, though. He's going to be at the head of this force. Galadriel she doesn't say anything, but her face doesn't read anger. It doesn't seem like she's pissed about it. It seems like she's like, all right, you know what? I'd rather have him there, and I'm just happy to be going and fighting Sauron than not going at all. And then the episode ends with Celebrimbor summoning Durin, sending Durin an invitation to the dwarves for a meeting in Lindon. And obviously we know what that's about, because we know that him and Sauron are about to start making a whole bunch of rings, and in order to do so, we need Mithril, so we need to get it from them, and obviously we're going to try to persuade them by doing so by giving them rings. So the first 2 episodes I liked a lot. I thought the second episode was good. Again, focused on the storylines that I liked. A lot of Durin, a lot of Khazad-dûn, all stuff that I like. A lot more of Nori, Poppy, the Stranger. Good cinematography. Obviously, like I mentioned, a couple of the little storytelling wrinkles I didn't think made a total lot of sense to me. But it is what it is. Still really enjoyed those first 2 episodes a lot. Then we get to episode 3. And wow, we're already at 52 minutes, huh? Shit. We got to episode 3. And as soon as I saw the synopsis for this episode, I knew I wasn't going to like it. I knew right away. I was like, this is not going to be the episode for me. I saw the names Isildur. I saw the name Arondir. And then I saw like the word Numenor. And I was like, this is all of the things that I do not fucking care about, like, at all. So like I said, we're going to kind of just go through this probably pretty damn quickly, because I don't have much to add. The Númenóreans, they're fucking heading back to Numenor. We see fucking Isildur's dad. He's got Beric, Isildur's horse, which we've already talked about like too much in this fucking show. But he's trying to get him to go home. He absolutely refuses. We see The Rock for the first time this season. He's like, he's not going to listen to anybody but Isildur. So he's like, fine. He lets him off. And the horse just goes sprinting off into the distance. And he's going to be fucking Detective Horse. This guy is going to track down Isildur. I don't know how. I don't know if he's a special magic horse. I don't know if he's a detective horse. I don't know if he is, I don't know. Horse Holmes? Maybe. I don't know. The Sherlock horse? Something. I don't know. But regardless, I thought this was ridiculous. He's going to just go fucking, like I said, roaming through the countryside like a fucking detective to find Isildur. Comes across some orcs that try to corner him. Of course, he fights his way out of there. Goes running into this forest and into this cave. And sure enough, who does he fucking come across? Who does he find in this goddamn cave? Isildur. What are the fucking chances? Crazy. Next thing you know, we have spiders popping out of everywhere. And an orc's going to attack Isildur. The only thing that was cool about this was these spiders were these were intense. These were way smaller than the Shelob spiders that we saw in Return of the King. These things were pretty small, but they were ferocious. Like, one of them attaches to the orc's head and pops his fucking skull like the mountain does to fucking Oberyn Martell. I was like, oh shit. Again, kind of like the thing where I was like, that was like a little bit harder violence than I think that we get in the trilogy. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but that was just, to me, like, I don't know. It just seemed a little harder violence. But Isildur's able to fight off the orc and a spider, and he escapes on Horse Holmes, Detective Horse, and they're out of Dodge. So Isildur, he's reunited with his horse. Great, happy for him. The queen is back in Numenor for her father's funeral. Even though Pharazôn's color and flag and banners are being waved all over when they got back, he seems to still be playing the role, still kind of supporting the queen for now. But like I said, they're doing her dad's funeral. A woman at the funeral like just comes right up to the queen, which I thought was like crazy. Like, you guys don't have any security guards. Like, anybody can just come up to this queen. She's blind. She could be attacked so wildly easily. Like, what if someone just pulls a knife and just stabs her? But regardless, this woman, he gives her a little smack. And rather than have her hands taken or thrown in a prison, the queen's just like, no, 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 no. And she asked who she lost, because she knows that had to be it. And sure enough, she lost her son. She gives her a nice little hug, and they share a moment. And I think it's nice for the crowd to see that the queen is so caring. And Pharazôn obviously doesn't like that, because he's just playing the pawn for right now. He obviously is going to be trying to take control. Right away, he kind of starts trying to get into her head. We see Pharazôn and the queen by themselves, and he brings her two dresses, white and a red, and they're for her coronation. She's going to officially be queen now, rather than just being the regent. And she says, I'm going to do the white. That's what my father wore, and there was an eagle. And he goes, well, if there's an eagle here, that's going to be a sign of a good omen, but why don't you wear the red? And she's like, nope, fuck that. I'm doing the white. So, a little bit of pushback. Also, you'll notice that he's wearing red at the service, the coronation that we'll see later. We see Pharazôn, his son, Iarion, Isildur's sister, and some other dude whose name I forgot. But they're just drinking and talking. Pharazôn's kid talking a whole bunch of shit about the queen. The Rock overhears it. He comes over, lays the smack down, talks some shit, calls him a jabroni, says, if you keep talking that shit, I'm going to lay the smack down all over your candy ass. And it was pretty cool. I like seeing The Rock. The Rock's a cool character. I thought it was funny that none of the other three characters did a literal fucking thing. They were just like, we didn't say shit. That was all him, bro. And then The Rock's going to bounce out, and Iarion is going to tell them about how she found the Palantir. Or the Palantir. Yeah, that one. And at that exact same time, we're going to be, while she's telling the story, we're going to see the queen go up into the king's chambers there, into that highest tower where the Palantir is, and sure enough, it's not there. So, 5 guesses to who took it. We see an orc. An orc's gonna. This was a big part that people had a problem with online. I mean, people want to just get fucking pissed off about the smallest of things, man. It was like a thing that was on screen for like 2 fucking seconds. Who gives a shit? But one of the orcs questions Adar about going back to war. And Adar's like, yep, we got to do it. A lot of people are going to die, but we need to go and make sure that Sauron's not back. And if he is, we got to take care of it immediately. So that orc just goes over to his little orc family, his little orc wife and his little orc kid. They kind of just like have a little cowering hug in the corner. It literally lasts for like 3 seconds. Like, who gives a shit? Like, oh, fucking orcs got a family? Like, I mean, I don't know, dude. The orcs got to come from somewhere. The orcs are fucking, I guess. Who gives a shit? They have a little baby orc. He's going to grow up to be a big orc. What the fuck ever. The cool part about the scene is we think big-ass mountain troll's going to fucking show up. Damrod. He's wearing a cool little fucking pair of shorts with a ton of skulls dangling from him and shit. And he fucking talks. He talks halfway decent. He gets a couple titles, which I thought was cool. Straight out of fucking Daenerys's, fucking Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, all that shit. Eater of Dragon Bones, Killer of Stone Giants. 2 good titles. 2 strong titles. And the only thing he asks is, where's Sauron? So clearly this guy is fucking not about him either. Sauron doesn't have many friends, even though he's like this big bad. The other bads don't seem to like him too much. Durin and Disa, they meet with Celebrimbor and fucking Halbrand / Sauron / Anatar. They offer them rings in exchange for Mithril. They'll get 7 rings for the highest dwarf lords. Celebrimbor brings it to them because he thinks that they have a better chance of getting a yes if it's his son bringing the idea to the king rather than them themselves, because he's hesitant to take help from outsiders. Anatar tries to do what he always does. Sauron, no, look at that. I just did it like 3 times. Go me. Sauron tries to do what he always does. He tries to play Durin like he does everybody, but Durin ain't buying that bullshit. He sees right through it. And Disa doesn't, but he tells her, like, yo, that guy is not on the up and up. I don't trust him. And there's a first little gripe, like, if you want to call it a gripe, but obviously Sauron's got, his thumb on Celebrimbor. He's doing whatever he wants. And Disa is like, yo, can we take a second to think over this proposal? And they answer at the same time. Celebrimbor's like, yes, of course, take your time. And Anatar's like, nope, basically you got to answer right here in the room. And Celebrimbor like kind of speaks over him, and he's like, no, like, take your time. And you see Sauron's kind of like look over at him like, bro, like, you better fucking watch it. Like, you ain't the man in charge here, even though you think you're the man in charge here, and I keep telling you you're the man in charge here. Like, you better watch yourself. But we see Durin doesn't really want to bring it to the king, and Deese is smart enough to be like, yo, do you not want to bring it to him, or do you just not want to fucking own up to the mistakes you've made and apologize and have the conversation that you've been trying to put off because you guys are both just hard heads, refusing to break for one another. No one's ready to bend the knee to the other one and be the bigger man. Celebrimbor writes a message to Gil-galad saying that he's going to close down the forge. He's going to make his way to him soon. A lie, so that fucking him and Sauron can continue their work. So Sauron's continuing to get exactly what he wants. He's continuing to play him like a fiddle. Everything's going exactly the way that he wants it to go. Isildur's still fucking journeying across the goddamn country. Girl jumps out, stabs him in the leg. Ha ha ha. She thought he was an orc. Ha 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 ha. Just dumb. Couldn't have cared less. Tells him that Isildur, his dad, has left. They look at a map, and he is heading for Palagir, a Numenor settlement, an old Numenor settlement. And they're going to head there together. She's looking for people too, so he's like, hey, maybe your people found my dad, and they're all together. So they start heading to Palagir together, and on the way there, they come across another cart. This guy got a dying man outside of it, and the girl's like, yo, let's just keep going. Like, don't help him. And Isildur's like, the least we could do is give him a little bit of food. Sure enough, it's a fucking trap. She was right. Isildur sucks. Like, he sucks. Like, everything about him from, like, the trilogy that we know of him, like, sucks. Like, he got tossed aside. He got lucky. He picks up a sword. He cuts off a ring. Then he instantly gets possessed by it. Can't throw it into the fucking fire. Causes so much death and destructions for who knows how many years afterwards because he was a little bitch and just got lucky. And, now we see him. He's a little bitch boy. He fucking, I don't know. I just can't stand him. I don't like him. And I dislike him even more now that I see fucking the kid version of him. But regardless, the old man fucking jumps him. Nice little surprise attack. And his horse loses his horse again. And he's about to die. And right as he's about to die, a couple arrows come flying in. And who is it but Arondir comes to save the day and fuck everybody up. And, sure, it looked kind of cool, and it was nice to have some orcs die and there'd be a little bit of action. But I just don't care. I just don't care. And Arendor and Isildur are like, hey, it's good to see you again. And for a split second, I was like, did they meet? And I was like, oh, yeah, duh, at the battle. That's how little I remember about their storylines and how much I, actually cared about them. Completely forgot that they met. Came to me quickly, but still. We go to fucking Arondir. This part I didn't remember at all. I had to go fucking I was like, when did that happen? We go to Arondir in the villages. They're having a funeral for Bronwyn. I was like, when the fuck did Bronwyn die? She got caught by an arrow and she was poisoned. I was like, I don't remember that at all. Not that I really give a fuck because I couldn't care about her character any less. But we see Arondir. He's trying to comfort Theo, who's probably going to be a ring wraith. And Theo's like, bro, I want nothing to do with you. You're dead to me. Never speak to me ever fucking again. Which, if only we were so lucky. If only we were so lucky to never see these two talk again. I'm sure that they will. And I will not give a fuck just as much. Theo sucks. At least Arondir, does some cool action sequences. And he's an elf and shit like that. Theo blows. He is probably my least favorite character in this entire show. He stinks. We're going to see the Dwarf King. A couple people are coming up to him, different people. They're coming to basically make proposals to him. This one guy's like, yo, we got to open up the food reserves because the crops are dying and we don't have enough food. King's like, yeah, sure. How long is it going to last? 3 months. Not very long at all. And then the big guy comes, Durin himself, ready to finally be the bigger man and go and talk to his father. He doesn't just do that. He brings him the proposal, and he also gives him a nice, heartfelt apology. And he also kind of hints that he didn't love the meeting that he had with Celebrimbor, which I'd have to imagine is because he didn't really trust that Onatar guy. And also, Elrond wasn't there. The guy that he knows, he's called him a brother. He wasn't there. And I think that obviously threw him off and made him very hesitant to believe in this and very hesitant to trust in this proposal and go through with it. We find out that Isildur's mom died trying to save him from drowning. What an asshole. Got his mom killed because he can't swim or he can't swim good. Don't go into the riptide, dickhead. Got his mom killed. Nothing about this guy is good. He stinks. And he's telling the story to the girl that, he met and is bringing along. Theo's eavesdropping this entire time because he's like, yo, Isildur, we'll meet at midnight. We can get your fucking horse back because you're a little bitch boy and you need to have your horsey. And we see, after they leave real quick, we see the girl, she's heating up this knife and she's burning the mark off of her back, the mark of Adar, which, I mean, I don't think is like, oh man, like, is she a bad guy? Like, I don't think that at all. I simply think that she wanted to live, bent the knee, and then somehow was able to escape. I don't think it's that crazy. Like, I don't think this girl's some fucking evil do-gooder for Adar. But we see Theo and Isildur. They come across a little fire pit, few men hanging out by it, the men that set a trap for him earlier, stole the horse. And as Isildur's trying to get the horse back, he's making too much noise. The men are about to go over there. Theo goes running in and kind of distracts them. He's like, oh yeah, I'm one of you guys. I got a mark too. Like, look, we're all on the same team here. And Theo gets snatched up and he's calling for Isildur. And then all of a sudden, fucking, you just see guys fucking getting picked off from all over the fucking woods. Just and then Theo gets picked up too. And you have to imagine it's some fucking big ass fucking mountain troll that's nearby that just started smashing people up, which makes me think it's probably the one that we met earlier in the episode, Damrod, who must be traveling this way probably and just happened to come across this. Could be another mountain troll. Could be something else entirely. Could be a different kind of creature that we haven't even met yet. Who knows? But I am curious. Even though I hate Theo entirely and Isildur, I am curious to see if it was a mountain troll, if it was that mountain troll, or something else entirely. Queen's coronation. People calling out that she's unfit to rule. Queen gives a nice little speech, kind of warms them all over. Like, everything's kind of cool. And then Isildur's sister again, Arianne, intervenes, fucking brings the Palantir forward and basically just calls out the queen. And she's like, this is what fucking she used to determine that we go across the seas. This is why a bunch of people died. She's using this elvish stone. She's unfit to rule. And Pharazôn tries to be like all cool about it, and he's just like, this is nonsense. The queen would never do that. Fucking have this bowl destroyed. And right away the queen's like, yeah, not so fast. Not so fast. That is mine. That is mine. And we're going to need it because it tells the future. And we're going to need this fucking thing. Elendil, Isildur's dad, tries to go and scoop this motherfucker off the ground because obviously he's still very much supporting the queen. So he goes to try to scoop it up. And as he goes to pick it up, fucking boom, just gets like shot, like exploded, and goes flying across the floor, and chaos ensues. Thankfully, the soldiers, the men, are still loyal to the queen. They still try to protect her. They got their shields up. The villagers, the Numenorians, they're just trying to get to the queen. It's just like a fucking, like I said, chaos has ensued, and all of a sudden, the thing that ends the chaos is a screech. And as a screech we heard, it's a fucking eagle. An eagle, massive eagle, comes flying in, lands right outside of the coronation. And everyone's like, oh, shit. And you'd have to imagine the fact that the queen's blind and she can't see and she's behind a wall of soldiers. It'd be a little hard for her to go over to the fucking eagle like her dad probably did, because we know he was there. And Pharazôn's able to walk over to the eagle. The eagle doesn't do anything because I think eagles are like really good creatures. I don't think this thing's gonna like fucking eat this guy. And it was screeching though. Like, to me, it didn't seem like the eagle was in support of Pharazôn, but the people were like, oh yeah, the eagle prefers him, and they start chanting his name. And in that moment, we get a new leader in Numenor. But obviously, like, I don't know. Again, that's kind of the thing that just everything. There's a lot of things that seem obvious in this show to like, and the characters just completely miss it. It's like they don't have their brains on like at all. But regardless, Pharazôn's going to be in charge. You got to imagine that the queen's going to be probably in trouble. Obviously, she was using that stone, so who knows what they're going to do to her? They might toss her ass in a prison. Isildur's dad, he might be in trouble too for supporting her. Who the fuck knows? Numenor, hopefully not going to be a fucking storyline tomorrow. I don't give a fuck about any of them. I don't give a fuck about the queen or Pharazôn or Isildur or Isildur's dad or his sister. I don't care about literally any of it. And then the episode closes out. King Durin and Disa are at the forge with Celebrimbor. The king, Durin and Disa are all at the forge with Celebrimbor. And the king brings forward a chunk of mithril. So obviously, we're making rings. Celebrimbor takes it, and then before he can throw it into the flame himself, Sauron's like, yo, can I do it? And Celebrimbor is like, okay, I guess so. And Sauron throws the Mithril into the forge himself, and we're going to be forging more rings. First things first, it's going to be the 7 for the dwarves, and then I have to imagine that right after that, they'll be happy with them, and they'll give them some more Mithril, and they'll do the 9 for the rings of men. But Sauron's getting everything that he wants. He has clearly won Celebrimbor entirely to his side. They're full-blown partnership. He's now got the dwarves doing what he wants them to do. He's got the Mithril. We're going to make the rings. Everything is fucking Halbrand, Sauron, Onatar right now. This third episode, to me, stunk. I was so bored by it. I was having a hard time even paying attention to all of it. When Durin was on screen, obviously had my attention. Same, Durin, Celebrimbor, Onatar, that had my attention. Everything else did not at all. This episode did nothing for me. Kind of like I said, though, first 2 episodes I liked a lot. I thought this was a good way to get back to the show. I hated that they did the 3-episode drop at one time. I just thought it was completely unnecessary, and it made doing this recap very difficult. So fuck you guys at Amazon. Looking forward to tomorrow's episode. Looking forward to the rest of this season. Obviously, weekly drops from here on out for the next 5 weeks. Thursdays, so they're going to be competing with football, too. A lot of weird choices surrounding this season as far as the release and all of that. But who am I to say? I'm not a fucking marketing fucking genius. So I just can't imagine that these numbers were as good as they could have been if they had dropped it at a different time. Regardless, that's going to wrap it up, though, for me today. I can't believe I just did an hour and 10 minutes. I'm sure people are going to hate that it lasts that long when it's just me myself. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people don't get through it. But I got through all 3 episodes, so I'm happy with myself. I am going to be hopefully keeping up the pace that I did this summer for those of you guys that are still listening, that like tuning in and hopefully listen to a lot of the shows during the summer. We had a busy summer. We were cranking out episodes, and I'm hoping to kind of keep that pace going into the fall and into the new year. So we're going to be doing the weekly recaps for this. We had the Beetlejuice review coming probably next week, because I'm very excited for that. And then a couple of special things that are going to be coming September, October. So thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys soon. Happy watching.